Holistic connection. Let's heal. Holistic connection. Let's learn. Holistic connection. Let's grow. Holistic connection. Let's be real.
Hello, everyone. This is Pamela Topchian, your host for Holistic Connections, Conversations with Holistic Practitioners. So I will have my guest introduce herself and please share what you do in the holistic healing space.
Excellent. Well, hi, Pamela. Thank you so much for having me on today. I'm Holly Lasky, and I am a master certified coach and hypnotherapist. And I work with high performers, artists, professional athletes, the regular, everyday, ordinary people to go towards their next best step, what they want in their life. And what makes what I do very different is I'm coaching the unconscious and the conscious mind. So a lot of coaches are out there doing fabulous work and coaching very consciously, and there's a place for that. And there are a lot of people using unconscious techniques, like hypnosis is an unconscious technique. But if you don't have agreement between your unconscious and your conscious mind, you're not going to ultimately get what you want long term. So that's what makes what I do so very different. And it's been fun as I've gone through this career change and just discovering coaching. And I'm just loving what I do. And I love sharing with other people about it.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, thank you for being here. So, how did you first become interested in coaching? And you said you made a career change. So, can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure, yeah. So I came to coaching as a client first, and it was mostly because I had an acquaintance in my community that we knew through some other contexts, and she was posting things, and I thought, well, that sounds interesting, and that sounds I've never heard of that, and I'd be looking it up and going, huh. And I had some childhood trauma, some things in my life that I had kind of tried to address in every kind of ordinary conventional way. I've been to therapy repeatedly, and I would get kind of short-term results. And I reached a place in my life where I thought, well, maybe this is just the way it is, and I'm just going to have to live with this in whatever capacity I can. I've done everything I can do that I know to do. It still bothers me. It still comes up. It still triggers me. I have PTSD, all that. Um, I guess complete resolution maybe isn't possible. And so I just thought, well, I'll just, live my life, do my thing. And then I was seeing these posts and I was seeing these things about different techniques I had never heard of. And that led to a conversation. And then a week later, a conversation with her business partner. And I went to my first coaching event, which was an amazing experience, became clients. And my results were so outstanding that I thought everybody needs this. And I had been really feeling kind of burnt out. I'm a professional musician. I've done that since I was, 12 years old. I've had a very multifaceted career as a musician, and I've kind of reached a point because of a lot of life circumstances where I really wanted to do more or to do something else. And I just didn't know what it was. And then when coaching crossed my path, I thought, well, this is it, and started to go through the process of becoming certified and being a part of some really great coaching communities. And so I started coaching full time and made that transition.
Yeah, that so often is how people transition. It's like, I needed something, I got it from this modality or method or treatment that I hadn't heard of before or hadn't tried before, and wow, did I get results? Let me see how I can help others do the same. Yeah, that's great. That's great. And I love too how you're doing the hypnotherapy and that along with the coaching, like you said, the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. I mean, it's a
Well, I
win-win.
I actually use over 35 different modalities.
Oh my goodness.
Every time I'm working with someone, it's so exciting, whether I'm working with a group or working with an individual, customizing whatever that person or that group needs,
hmm
and drawing on all of these different disciplines and modalities to get them the best results possible.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. So, out of all of those modalities, what do you think is the most misunderstood or the one that has the most misconceptions about it that maybe you could explain to people a little bit here?
Sure. I think a lot of techniques that people are using in the past would be described as like woo-woo, you know,
Hmm.
woo-woo techniques. And I'm very much about neuroscience, the science behind why all of these techniques work and how our mind works and the connection between our mind and our body, between thought, emotion, and action. And you know, the conscious and the subconscious and all of those things. There is science behind this. This is not a mystery, but it has been a mystery in the past. I was reading a really fascinating article talking about how only recently we have the technology to view a very fine neural network that's right under the layers of the skin. And we've never been able to see it before, but that's why acupuncture works
Wow.
because it's
Yeah.
tapping into that very fine neural network. You put a needle in here and it affects somewhere else in your body because of that network. So I think in a lot of ways, a lot of these techniques are misunderstood because we just didn't have the science or the ability to see it in the way we can see it now. I'm master certified in timeline therapy, neuro linguistic programming. I think those two are very misunderstood.
Yeah.
Hypnosis is misunderstood. Hypnosis, everybody has like a the Hollywood view. One of my mentors said, in hypnosis, we're all experiencing it together, and you're not going to do anything when you're hypnotized that you are in disagreement with.
Right.
So if you are going to stand on a chair and cluck like a chicken under hypnosis, that's not out of the realm of possibility in real life. So you can't hypnotize somebody and say, go rob a bank. And if that's against their values, they're not going to do it.
Right.
So, and the more intelligent someone is, the more easily they're hypnotized. So people think, oh, I'm like putting my brain on pause. It's like, no, 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 that's not what this is about. And it's using active imagination and visualization. This is how I work with pro athletes and
Mm.
musicians and writers and creatives of all kind, as well as people, you know, in the financial industries. Your brain doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. It's the same thing. So, you know,
Yeah.
you think about Olympic athletes as they imagine themselves doing the perfect routine or the perfect ski run down the hill or whatever it is, their mind says, "Oh, we did a perfect run." You know, and there's all kinds of studies that have been done that support all of that. And I've even tried experiments on myself as well as a musician where I've imagined practicing a piece. I've never touched the piano. I've imagined playing it, looked at the score, imagined playing it, closed my eyes, I imagined playing this one piece for about a month every day. And then at the end of the month, I sat down and I played it.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was as if I had actually played it on the piano. So, and some of the techniques like neuro-linguistic programming often gets a very bad rap because it's a technique that's used in advertising and politics and speech writing and all of these things. So, you know, it's so important when using all of these different tools to, you know, you have to use it with integrity and you're going for the best interest of the person you're working with. You know, it's the win-win-win.
Yeah.
So the ecology of it is so important. And I always work when the people and the groups I'm working with, there's also a certain amount of education. So people understand why does this do what it does? How does this work? How does my brain actually make this change here? How do we
Yeah.
create these new neural connections?
Yeah, isn't it so interesting how things have been utilized for many, many years without even understanding how they work. And so it's like the science has caught up with a lot of these,
Mhm.
somewhat, quote unquote woo-woo type of techniques and that. But it's so interesting to me that people, ancient people, knew that something worked even though they didn't know how or why, or they knew how, but maybe not why or whatever. But yeah.
Well, it's even it's some things that we take for granted. Like I was reading an article that was talking about a study being done, and when we look at a flame, like a fire, it activates our stem cells.
Mm,
And I thought
wow.
that's pretty that's pretty cool. So there are things that you know you think of in more ancient times, people would be
Yes.
sitting around the fire we don't do that as much. We should do it more. But, that connection to even to walk barefoot on the grass. I mean,
Oh,
there's things about that that are so good for us. And now we have the science to look at it and say, oh yeah, that okay, it activates my stem cells. It's
yeah.
helped the body actually resolve things. So
So
yeah,
amazing.
it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. So you had mentioned about being a professional musician. You're an artist in other ways as well. You're a writer. So I wonder if all this creativity that you have, if you use that within your coaching as well, or how do you use that?
Yeah. That's a really good question. As just as a person, I've always been very intuitive,
Yeah.
and learned to listen to that. And every time I didn't listen to that, I was sorry I did, that I
Yeah.
didn't listen to it. But as time had gone on, I realized that those prompts were really, 100%. They were always right on whatever needed to happen. And, I could tell you some very dramatic stories about some of those things. Um, but there's also an intuitive part of connecting with people. I had a conversation with a fellow coach and who was not trained the way I was trained.
Mhm.
And I asked him because he was having some health things. And I finally said, can I ask you a deeper question? And he says, yeah. And I said, what happened 3 years ago? And it just says he went pale and his jaw dropped. And he's like, how did you know? And then he told me he had had the death of somebody significant in his life. So there are things that happen to us, and then there's a working out of that in our life and our body and our emotions and all of that. And the more we understand that, the more we can address whatever the root cause of it is. So I find that the creativity comes with which modalities am I using with someone in that moment? How am I layering it together? One of my mentors said, you'll attract the perfect clients for where you are. And as you grow as a coach, who you attract as a client will change. And definitely I've seen that. So, I think to have that growth mentality and that mindset is really great because the more I'm growing, the more it changes who I attract as clients.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense for sure. If you mainly have your clients in person, one-on-one, or if you're doing more group stuff or you're doing virtual stuff, or how do you work with people in that way as well?
Okay, yes, all of the above. When I was transitioning into coaching full time, it was literally a week, 2 weeks before the pandemic happened.
Oh gosh, yeah.
So, so I mostly see people online, also just because I have clients that are literally all around the world. So
Mhm.
it's very practical in that regard. I
Nice.
do have a couple of clients that are local to me, but just because of schedule, we do tend to meet online in the Zoom room. And groups, a lot of things online. One of the things I'm looking at doing probably next year is to, begin to do some live events because I think there's a lot of power in those kinds of experiences and connections and doing that in person and having those collaborations with other like-minded coaches and people with different healing modalities and things like that. So I think it's great to have a balance of all of that. So but the wonder of technology means that we can connect with people online and certain techniques that I've learned that to help me connect in a very authentic way with people online. So energetically, it feels like we're in the same room.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
nice.
always helpful. And of course, doing groups online is how we've done it, how I've done it so far. It's just out of sheer practicality.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
And if people are in my in my area,
Right.
then we can meet in person. So I have
Yeah,
a couple of people that, like I say, who are here locally, and often it's becomes a mix of things, and that's
yeah.
great too.
So what has surprised you the most from when you first started doing this work up until now? Like, has there been anything that has really surprised you from doing this work that you're doing, or anything that you wish you knew before you started working with other people?
I think having come to this as a client
Hmm.
and had, fabulous results and everything. And one of my mentors said to me as I started to do coaching certifications and all of that, and he said, well, you're going to end up doing a lot of trauma coaching. And I go, oh, no, I'm not. And as time has gone on, I realized I'm a trauma expert, and the things that I thought might be more challenging actually come very naturally to me. And I think it's very reassuring for someone sitting in the client seat when they know that I sit in the client seat every week too. You know, every
Absolutely.
technique I use as a practitioner, I have sat on the other side of repeatedly. So I think realizing it isn't just get the certifications and then just start doing things.
Yeah.
It's get the certification, start getting experience, but always having that, okay, what's the next layer of how do I, learn? Like I said, have some amazing mentors. And I was in a forum where we were asking questions, and I was asking a very complex question because I was saying, well, if you layer this and da, 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 da. And he says, okay, let me answer the question. But for everybody else, don't do it this way because you're not ready yet. And the importance of knowing how all of these pieces work so that you can put them together. So because I come from a very conservative background, initially I had several people say to me, well, are you only going to coach people who come from your conservative background? And my answer to that was, why would I do that? I
Yeah,
mean,
that was my first thought. Why would anybody even think
right,
that? Yeah.
so like I say, everybody needs this work and the ability to hold that very confidential and vulnerable place for people so that, create that safety so that people
Yeah.
can release their most vulnerable judgments about themselves. It doesn't mean that I have to agree with someone about everything. It doesn't matter. It
Right.
absolutely doesn't matter. I'm putting my stuff to the side because in that moment, I am serving the person I'm working with wherever they're coming from whatever background they're coming from. And I can say I've worked with people from every religious background, every political background, every different sexual orientation you can think of. I mean, all of this. And, people are people, and to
Yeah.
be able to serve people where they are and to get them the results they want and to walk with them where they are in their journey of personal growth is such an incredible privilege.
Yeah.
And I don't take that lightly. I have a technique that one of my mentors challenged us to use, which has been really helpful because sometimes you're working with somebody and they're talking about something that maybe comes a little close to something in your own life. And in the moment, that's not about you, it's about them.
Right.
So I have a little notebook, little notepad here
Yeah.
that is off to the side every
Pretty
time I'm
pretty in
on.
pink.
Every time I'm on with someone, and if something comes up for me, I write it down there. And so I have an agreement with my unconscious mind that if something comes up, I write it down, and my unconscious mind knows that later we'll take a look at that.
Yeah, I
So it doesn't
love
get in the
that.
way. Nothing gets in the way, and I can show up and serve the people I'm working with to the best of my ability.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then you're not trying to keep it in the back of your mind so you remember
No,
later. And it's
no.
not itching at you because it's like, okay, it's out of me, it's down here. We'll get back to that. I
No.
love
So
that.
well, so please pardon the language, but I call it my shit list.
Yeah.
So
Ex-
that's what that is. And then
Definitely.
I'm accountable to several coaches regularly. We exchange coaching on a regular basis.
Oh, so
And
nice.
so I have people that I go to and get support from. And that's been, I think, a part of the growth and learning curve with everything.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's great for everybody's success, everybody who works with each other, and then you probably can also give some good feedback on a professional level as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. I love that you guys do that. So, where is the best place for people to reach you?
Great. Well, I'm all over all the platforms.
Okay.
The best place to reach me is in my Linktree. So if
Mm,
people are familiar with that,
yeah,
you do the https:// Linktree with the period, tr period
yeah,
ee. You do a backslash and just put my name, Holly Lasky, no spaces. And that is the best place. It's all my Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, X. I mean, that's all there. And then there I have, if people would like to have a conversation and about where they are, what that recurring thing that keeps coming up for them, and they don't know what to do about it, or they've tried everything else and it just hasn't worked. I'm also I would do periodically some free workshops. So if
Nice.
people want to have, just dip their toe in and have an experience, see what this is like, and know that they're going to do it in a safe and confidential setting, and then figure out what their next steps are from there. There's also there's a couple of different meditations, other interviews I've done, articles I've written, things like that, so people can kind of see what I've been doing, and then hopefully we can continue the conversation either in a workshop or in a one-on-one appointment.
Nice. Yeah, we'll have that below. And your website is hollylasky.com. And it's beautiful, a lot of information there. Love the butterfly as, a symbol of transformation. I love that there as well. So check that out, everyone. So did you have anything else that you wanted to share or make sure that people know before we end this today?
Yes, I would love to. I know how I came to coaching was this one thing that kept coming up for me. It was, my childhood trauma. I was molested by somebody close to my family.
Oops.
And I remember thinking this will never change. This won't, I've done everything I can do and it's not going to get better. And I was having a lot of physical manifestations of that. I was in
Sure.
chronic pain. There were things I really didn't understand just about how my brain and my body work together. Our pain, our pleasure, our emotions travel the same pathways in the body. And so there's so much about understanding and being able to process emotion safely and in a healthy way that can be very life-changing. And it really was for me to know that emotions are not good or bad, they're just information.
Yeah.
And if I know that it's kind of like looking at the dashboard of the car and going, oh, I need to check the oil, or, the tire pressure's a little off, or, it just becomes much more matter of fact. And knowing that as I began to change how I was processing emotion, it changed my health. And I did the trauma work, the trauma informed work using timeline therapy and neurolinguistic programming and other modalities. And it was life changing. So I think sometimes we're in the middle of these things that keep coming up again and again. And we don't even, it's kind of like the frog in the boiling water, and we don't realize
Right.
how hot it is. And we just don't think it's going to ever get better. And I
Yeah.
just want to encourage everyone out there, whatever that thing is for you, it is possible to have resolution and healing in that area of your life. And what happens in one area of life affects everything else. And that's the other thing that I specialize in, is this quantum shift of actually identity shifting, so that we can create a healthy identity from which to live in every part of our lives.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. What a great message. Yeah, it's all connected. Everything affects everything because man, that is so true. You live with it and it's getting worse and affecting more things and you might be, why am I having these headaches or why can't I sleep? People don't often associate those things with what's going on internally or past
Exactly.
traumas or something, and it absolutely is affecting every part of you and just building, building, building. So I love that so much. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you so much. It's been so great to be on and to have such a great conversation with
Yeah,
another like-minded person. That's always
yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. And everybody out there, please look at the description below. Visit her link tree, her website, all of the links in the link tree, and that'll be below. And share this out. More people need this information. Share it out. Let's learn and grow together. Thank you.